Well, welcome back everyone, and back to the shed again. And this time I've got something much older in bits. This is an Amerex radio recorder, an AM/FM unit from the very, very early 70s, I would say. And what you sometimes find with this very old equipment is that the tape transport is a little bit strange. Now, instead of using a felt clutch assembly, like Philips did and most of the other manufacturers, what they've done here is to use a foam affair. And you can see it there on the take-up reel. Now, of course, over time, as those of you with old 8-track cartridges will know, the foam goes to gingerbread. And I was at a bit of a loss to know how to proceed. Where do you get perfectly cylindrical foam, for heaven's sakes? My missus had an idea. She said, well, what about using one of the hair rollers that I don't use? And that's what that is. I've had to bore it out with a wood boring bit at high speed, very, very gingerly, to make it the right diameter to fit on the plastic table here. But sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures, and that was definitely one of them. Now, Amerex and their sister company Amerex, they were a thinly disguised Toshiba product. And I don't know why they didn't call them Toshiba to begin with, but they didn't, and for whatever reason. Amerex is usually associated with cameras and slide projectors, that sort of thing back then, whereas Amerex tended to be more the electro-musical stuff like this. But it didn't stop them making a few radio recorders and 8-track player radios. And in fact, my Nan used to have one, which was truly peculiar because it had a lever instead of buttons on top that you had to move to different positions. But the take-up drive, believe it or not, wasn't the same as this. And I've got an example done in the house of that, and I've had to do exactly the same thing to that. This old thing needed a new playhead. Well, it would do after all this time, wouldn't it? The pinch wheel is a wee bit hard, so I might end up changing that. Otherwise you'll get the old tape creep back again. No, I don't mean President Nixon. They reckon that shares in 3M crashed when he lost it, didn't they? Oh dear, yes, all in the best possible taste, not. But this is a pretty elderly machine. Because it's all done in wood effect. Even the speaker grill itself is wood effect. There's the Amerex name. You wonder how many of these were simply thrown away because people thought, well, bloody find out where to get the bit of foam from. Anyway, we'll find out if it works shortly. Well, here we are, and the Amerex is going once again. I think it once had a cover that covered the controls, but that's long gone. But the handle is still present, nice and sturdy. But it doesn't sound too bad a machine. Of course, it's only mono. It's made in Japan, which further makes me believe it is in fact a rebadged Toshiba. side of it you've got FM, AM selector for the radio part, the remote control type mic jack. All that actually did was to turn the motor off on the cassette transport, and then an auxiliary in, so you could tape from something else, an earphone, which is only mono by the way. Probably if you plugged a modern set of Walkman headphones into it, you'd only get sound through one side. And then below there's a switch with AC and DC. Now this thing is rather ancient, and I'll show you a bit about that in a minute. And then you've got the 5-pin European DIN socket there. Now turning this round reveals a rather big battery lid, and they were quite thoughtful about this. When you were running on the mains you had to select AC, and even if anybody does leave a set of Duff batteries in one of these, this is detachable and replaceable. It just snaps on with a similar connection to the old PP3 batteries. The set actually operates on 6 volts DC within. Whoops. And even then they were quoting no user serviceable parts inside it. So that shows you how long ago this was made. There is no model number on it that I can see, but one thing's for sure, there can't be many of them left, because once the foam take-up clutch went in the tape deck, well, what were you going to do? Just nip down to Woolies and buy another Alba or Waltham or Phillips or whatever, weren't you, back in those days? This would date from about, I would guess, 73, 72, somewhere along there. And it's got tape and radio selector there, and tape monitor. And if you're taping from the radio on this, my guess is that you have to have the tape monitor switched on, or you won't hear anything through the speaker. And it's probably preset, so it'll either be seemingly too quiet or it'll blow your ears off. There was never any happy medium with that sort of device. Quite a nice little Alnico 4-inch speaker inside there. Whole thing screams 70's at you, of course. And I was even able to find among my junk an aerial for it, because that was something else it was missing. So, funny old time capsule from 70's. As I say, probably as rare as an honest politician now. So, enjoy it while you can. But at least the tape transport can be fixed. You can see the spools are turning quite happily away there. The glass is rather smoked, so you may not even be able to see it. And the speed is nice and steady. The motor is a reversible one, as on a lot of these older equipments, and when running in rewind it runs in reverse. So if you're going to fit a modern cassette motor to it, of course you're going to have to think outside the box a little bit and try and incorporate some kind of reverser, or use the reverser it's got in it, and wire that between the control module and the actual motor. But it all sounds rather complicated, doesn't it? I have done it with a few of the old Phillips machines, used more modern motors in those, because they're getting on a bit and they do tend to muck about, and there's no way in, and even if you do get in, there's nothing you could do, because you can see the cause of the problem. scored commutator and warm brushes, that'll do it every time, won't it? Make a unsteady tape speed. But this whole thing, I'm happy to report, seems okay. She was a bit reluctant to go at first. I think that's because probably been disused for, well, who can say how long really. A paintbrush, soft paintbrush, is a very handy thing for getting dust out of these vintage style speaker grills and the many little recesses and what have you on these sets without damaging anything. And so there you are, little time capsule, probably fairly cheap in its day, I expect, but worth saving really for the rarity value. The ones with the lever on top, like my Nana had, were altogether rarer, and I've only ever come across 3 actually. One was hers, one I've got, and I think you'll find that there is one on eBay at the moment. But do bear in mind, if you do get it and you're thinking of doing it up, you will need to do the modification I've done with the bit of one of my Mrs. hair rollers. There's a foam pad inside there which does the take-up drive during playback and record. And of course, as with the old 8-tracks, the foam goes to gingerbread and then there's no drive and the thing will eat your tapes. But in fairness, I don't expect that Toshiba or Amerex or Amerex thought the thing was going to last this long, or if it did, they probably didn't think that anybody would still be listening to cassette tapes in this day and age, eh? Anyway, with that, I'll stop rambling on, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care out there, and ta-ta for now.